DOMS. So what is DOMS? So as you can see here, I've just put a wee picture of a guy doing some foam rolling. That would be to ease some tension or ease some pain, which I'll go into in a wee second. So what is DOMS? So DOMS is delayed onset of muscle soreness. So essentially, it is the damage that occurs when you work a muscle past the point that it was used to previously. And it's a completely normal body reaction to a muscle being damaged, which is just explained. Micro tears in the muscle caused by weighted tension or your own body weight going through the muscle. So, when you are sore from exercise, it's because you have taken a muscle that, for example, was used to holding a 10 kilo weight for a minute. You take that 10 kilo plate and you hold it for a minute and 10 seconds. You hold it for a minute and 20. So the more you do, the more you're pushing it past its strength threshold, then you're going to get sore from it because you're causing micro tears in the muscle, which are then repaired and built back stronger through protein intake and through recovery. But I'll go through that in a wee second. So, limiting DOMS. So, some of the things that you can do to try and limit the pain. Now, you're never ever going to get rid of the pain completely, especially when you're either starting exercise or when you're going into a new phase of training, something that's going to stimulate new muscle growth and something that's going to challenge you. So, knowing how hard to push. So, not pushing yourself too hard, taking your time with it, getting to know how it feels and getting used to the new exercises or the new rep ranges or whatever. So using RPE, which is your rate of perceived exertion. So if you haven't watched the previous video on that and I've never explained it, RPE is essentially the gauge that you would use to see how hard something is. So for example, how hard is this? 1 to 10, and you would score it. If it's a 10 out of 10, obviously it is the hardest that you can do. It's the max that you're pushing. So if you want to experience as little DOMS as possible that obviously stop you from then exercising frequently again, then just knowing how hard to push and knowing when to scale it back a bit is very important. Previous workout numbers, so looking at your program and seeing what you've done on your previous workout. So for example, if you lifted 50 kilo for 10, you wouldn't then in the next exercise session then go, oh, I'm going to lift 70 for 10 because that's a massive jump, and there is a very good chance that you're going to be really, really sore for a couple of days after it. Now again, I can't reiterate enough, pain is normal and you're going to experience pain. That's just part and parcel of what comes with exercise, but it's when it becomes not funny, it's when it becomes almost debilitating, when you're shuffling around. And it was funny to start with, but now it's really, really sore. It's affecting your day, it's affecting your job, depending on what you do. So we just don't want to take it too hard. Always keeping protein intake nice and high. So whatever your protein intake has been set to, you're aiming to hit that every single day, just so that you're getting your protein in for muscle reparation and building new tissue as well. But if you're always keeping on top of your protein and you're always hitting that target, then you're doing as much as you can do to make sure that your body's going to give itself enough or as good a chance as possible at building new muscle, but more so repairing the damage quicker than if somebody was eating a low protein diet who would take a lot longer and who would probably get DOMS every single time they exercise without fail. Having optimal sleep cycles. Now again, I know this isn't always possible for mums and dads out there, people with kids, etc., night shift workers, but trying to sleep as well as you can all the time. So doing the things that you need to do to make sure that you're getting as optimal sleep as you can. So making sure that you're going to bed at a decent time, not spending hours on your phone at night, turning blue light filters on your phone if you are spending a wee bit of time on your phone before bed, making sure that you're not drinking too much fluid in the second half of your day or probably more night time so that you're not up for a million peas during the night. And just trying to be as well rested as possible. So what I found is the relationship between getting a really, really good sleep and exercise or physical activity definitely have a relationship together. So when I was, like during lockdown, I'm talking about when I was not cycling, and when I was cycling, I found that on the days that I was cycling, I was having a great sleep. I was getting to bed straight away, getting to sleep straight away. But then the days that I wasn't cycling, really struggling, tossing and turning, couldn't switch off, mind was getting into overdrive, and I just found that more physical activity then got me to sleep quicker, but it also got me into a deeper, better quality sleep. And then your last one is not going long periods without training. So if you're somebody who has maybe struggled with consistency before, dips in and out of their training, then it just means that you're going to go through periods of great muscle growth and strength gains, But then if you leave it too long, the muscle's going to get weaker again. And then when you go back into exercise, you're going to end up back at square one and really, really sore. So staying consistent is very, very important. Now, one thing I just want you to take a wee note of, this is not something that I'm trying to scare you with, but it's something that I want to make you aware. So rhabdo. So rhabdo is rhabdomyolysis. So it's often obviously abbreviated as rhabdo. So if you ever hear anybody saying that, that's what they mean. So it's a serious medical condition. Now this has just been taken straight from Wikipedia. It's a serious medical condition that can be fatal or result in permanent disability. So what is it? What actually is rhabdomyolysis? So rhabdomyolysis occurs when damaged muscle tissue releases its proteins and electrolytes into the blood. These substances can damage the heart and kidneys and cause permanent disability or even death. So basically what happens is somebody works a muscle too hard and it goes toxic. It starts to break down, but it releases toxins into the bloodstream, which then there's no coming back from. If left too long, there is no coming back from. It can be fatal. But in the context of exercise, you'll notice what the symptoms are. Like your muscles feel really, really, really heavy to the point you're not able to lift your arms or lift your legs. That is at the point that you get yourself straight to E&E. Now, again, I've only ever heard of one person that I've physically spoken to that happened to, and she got to A&E and she was fine. She spent a good amount of time in hospital, but she was fine from it. But these are only extreme circumstances. Now, I put here, in the context of this, rhabdo would be caused by somebody going from little or no exercise experience in years or ever to a full-blown max effort stint of exercise. So the person that I'm talking about, she went from exactly that and she went into a spin class, and then from that spin class the instructor was just pushing them as hard as they could, but he never asked if she was new to exercise, etc. So she pushed as hard as she could because she thought that that's what she needed to do, and then she ended up in hospital with it because her muscles then went from zero conditioning, zero strenuous activity, to then going to max effort. So the cause, as I've written here, was pushing the muscles way too hard when they hadn't been conditioned to handle that amount of volume. Now, the cases are rare, but they can happen in extreme circumstances. So it's always best to ease yourself into exercise and build from there. All right, so just something to take note of, but not something to be scared of, because if you don't just fling yourself into something full tilt, you'll be absolutely fine. And then ways to ease and manage DOMS. So I would say one of the most beneficial is a warm bath. Now, the Epsom salts are optional. They're essentially like magnesium, and it's not salt, but it's described as salt. It's magnesium, essentially. So there's not enough research to support whether the magnesium actually plays a role in terms of your body absorbs it well enough. The research is still a bit kind of iffy on that, but it's not going to do you any harm. And magnesium basically calms down the central nervous system, it relaxes muscles, and it's meant to relieve stress, but through you absorbing the magnesium, which will then obviously play its role in all these functions. So the warm bath, I would say, eases the muscles, relaxes the muscles, gets them nice and supple again, but it's not going to help with the pain per se, but it's just going to allow your muscles to relax temporarily so that you can maybe go to bed and not be as sore. Again, magnesium supplementation through physical supplements that you would ingest, definitely. Protein, and again, like I mentioned earlier, protein is the building blocks for muscle repair and growth. Plenty of sleep and recovery, as mentioned before. Keep moving, that's a massive one. So you'll probably find that if you sit about for long periods of time, just due to obviously not being able to get up and moving at your work, for example, you'll then get up and you'll be like crippled. So you want to make sure that you are keeping moving as much as you can. Being sensible with your training, like I said, not just launching yourself into max effort training when you've had no conditioning prior. And if you do end up with bad DOMs and you followed all the advice and it still happened anyway, you're just going to have to prepare for the, I don't know whether to laugh or cry feeling, and accept your fate and carry on with life as best as possible, because it will go away. As long as you keep your protein nice and high, as long as you keep moving and you're doing as much as you can, obviously taking warm baths or showers, then you're doing as much as you can and it should go away in a few days. All right, so bear everything in mind. Don't push too hard. Obviously know when to push, know when to hold back, but take all this into consideration and train safely.